Hello everyone, hope you're doing great today. Thank you for watching our review of the second episode of The Rings of Power. Just kind of give a quick recap, just so you can kind of understand the format. We are just kind of judging this series on the basis of, is it good media? Is it a good TV show? Yes, we do both have experience with the Lord of the Rings universe. We're not the biggest Tolkien... I almost said fans. We are fans, but like the Tolkien mythos, we're not experts. Tolkien experts. There you go. There's a great. That's what I was looking for. We're not Tolkien experts. We do know stuff about. We've seen the movies. We've read books.
I would not win a Tolkien trivia game.
Yeah, neither one of us would. So yeah, we're just kind of trying to analyze it by itself. Sometimes there will be some commentary tying back to like the Lord of the Rings movies or something along those lines. But most of it's just going to be what is the show itself just showing us and just judging it on those merits.
Is it good storycraft?
Yep. So that's kind of what we're doing. If you didn't know that, what are you doing watching this video? Go watch the first one for the first episode. It's going to be much longer than this one. But anyways...
This one has to be shorter. The baby's going to wake up from her nap.
Well, I mean, that is true. But anyways, hope you're all doing well and ready for us to give our thoughts on episode 2. I can't really think of anything else. So I guess I'll start. I like the entry credits.
Yeah.
The sand.
Mm-hmm.
I liked them. It was pretty.
Yeah, I thought that was... I've seen, like, videos where they put sand on a table and then they, like, play music through speakers against the bottom of the table, and it, like, makes different designs and stuff. And, the science of musical frequency. I'm a musician, so I think that stuff is interesting. So they kind of reminded me of that. So, yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, at first I was like, well, why didn't they have this in the first episode too? But a lot of times, like, the pilot episode doesn't have a certain intro.
Because you want that extra time.
You want the extra time to add your 9 minutes of exposition.
Callback.
So, to our video on episode 1. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Okay. What do you have next?
I don't have any notes, and I have a blank space here as though I intended to come back and write notes, but I never actually did, so I don't remember what I was going to write first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe I'll remember it when I hear you say something.
Okay.
It'll jog my memory. My first note is about when Elrond gets to Khazad-dûm.
Okay, well that's my second note.
Okay.
After the credits, that is. One thing was, how did, so, was that in the, yeah, because the first episode ended with, like, the cow that had, like, the ink sludge milk, right?
I thought that was at the beginning of the first one.
I'm talking about, it was in the first episode.
No, I mean, the second one.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, I don't know, maybe it was, but anyways, Arondir and Bronwyn, they decide to go to this town that she knows and she has family and friends of, and it's completely destroyed.
Yeah, maybe they were setting out to do that at the very end of episode 1.
And it's
and
destroyed.
And then they get there at the beginning of episode 2.
And Bronwyn goes that, well, men didn't make these tunnels. Something made these tunnels. And it was kind of like,
yeah. Like,
well, how does she know that?
Yeah, like...
And I mean, and obviously it's supposed to allude to, like, it's the orcs, or it's a monster, or it's something unnatural. I mean,
but like it's all
the episode does tell us what's creating those tunnels.
Like it's
but yeah, it's a hole in the ground. It totally could have been. It could have been the dwarves springing up from holes in the ground. Like, that's how they got destroyed.
Like if I go out and find a giant hole dug in the middle of the field, I'm not going to know what made it unless it has like actual like marks of like the claws of a backhoe or something.
Well, wasn't there? Oh wait, no, I'm getting my scenes confused. Yeah,
no, that was later on. The claw marks were later.
Yeah. So, but yeah, how did she know that?
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things of like, hey, I guess it's one of those things of like, I remember my course of studying movies as literature, where like that's the differentiation between good movie storytelling and bad movie storytelling is that there's foreshadowing that is subtle, and then there's foreshadowing like that, where it's like something, men didn't do this, something made this.
The hole
wink,
and the
wink.
tunnel would have been mysterious
by itself.
Either way, like, even if men did make it, okay, what men tunneled into this village and why did everybody disappear?
Yeah.
Like,
Were
they tunneling in or were they tunneling out? Like, what? It would have been mysterious without you having to do anything, which again is a sign of juvenile, inexperienced writing, because a lot of inexperienced writers don't feel confident in their own subtlety. They feel like, well, if I'm subtle, nobody's gonna get it. I'm too subtle. I need to be over. No, people are gonna get it. Most of your readers, not all, but most of your readers are reasonably intelligent and will figure out, hey, a village full of people that just disappeared, and there's this huge gaping hole leading to a tunnel in the middle of this. Was it in a barn or in a house or something?
I think a house.
A burned out house or something. Like, that is sufficiently mysterious all by itself. You don't have to do more. But a lot of inexperienced writers feel like, I have to do more to make it mysterious. No, you don't. It can stand on its own. You did fine. But they went ahead and added that men didn't make this. Something made that. Like, you were fine, and then you
ruined it.
Messed it up. Yeah.
Okay, so Casa Doom.
My note said Casa Doom is gorgeous.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and one thing I really like about it, having seen the movies, we just see it as this empty, dead, eerie place.
I liked seeing it alive and vibrant and full of people, and, they've got the channeled waterfalls, and they've got light coming in, and we don't actually see what it is, but I assume it's some kind of mirror or lens that's reflecting light from the surface to illuminate different parts of the interior. So the technology was really cool. So yeah, I did like that. I just thought Casa Doom was absolutely gorgeous.
And that's basically all I have. I may have some comments later, but that's all I have for right now. What was your next thing?
Mine is, I'm assuming this is about Galadriel. Oh, this is about the scene where Galadriel finds the raft full of shipwrecked survivors.
Let me. So there was one. So the guy fell from the sky.
Right.
In the last episode.
And was found by the Harfoot girl.
Nori, right.
I will say, I think Nori is a super cute nickname for Eleanor. Like, I thought that was a...
What?
I'm trying to find positives, okay?
That has nothing to do with it.
I'm trying to find...
So you're saying her name's actually Eleanor?
Yes. That was
it
said
is?
in the first episode.
Oh, well... on me. So
like, why is this so funny to him?
I didn't hear that. That's why it's funny.
Yes, her name is Eleanor.
I just thought it was one of your random thoughts that happened to you. Do you deny it?
Do I deny what?
Your random thoughts. That just...
That's not what we're talking about.
It's just so cute and pretty, and it has nothing to do with nothing, but I love it. So, she's precious. I love her. Oh, but anyways, during that scene when they're just kind of, like, talking or whatever, and who knows, maybe it's just that I've seen enough movies. I still don't feel like this is exactly the case. But it felt something with the shot. It felt very obvious where it's like, okay, they're doing movie magic here to give us the height differential. Like, I can tell,
the force perspective?
Yes, I can tell that they're not on the same plane.
Like,
and like with Elf, I didn't get that with Elf. I could be wrong. Big Fish, I didn't get that with Big Fish. I know there's techniques that they do to make someone look bigger than they actually are.
Well, and in Lord of the Rings,
Gandalf
there's a lot of force perspective in the Lord of the Rings movies. And there's, like, maybe one or two places, maybe, in the entire Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movie trilogy where you can see they're using force perspective. Maybe. But this was, like, very obvious force perspective. Like, it didn't seem like it had been edited fully in post-production. Yeah. Like, because if you see, like, behind-the-scenes footage of, from the Lord of the Rings movies, before it's gone through post-production, it's just the raw footage. Yeah, you can totally tell this is force perspective. But when they even out the lighting and the shading and all of that,
there's just something that seems off.
It gets rid of that.
It's like, I can tell that these two people are not actually looking at each other.
Yeah. that they're...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It didn't seem well done.
Okay. So your next thing is about her coming across the ship. You don't have
the shipwreck survivors, yeah.
You don't have anything before then?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so my 2 things is... Because when Galadriel jumps off the boat at the end of the first episode, I'm like, okay, so she jumped up, so what's she gonna do? Just swim all the way back?
Apparently.
And that's where she is. She's just swimming. And yes, I laughed out loud because I'm like, okay. I mean, it makes sense, but still, and I understand they're elves, you know.
Like, do they not have sharks in Middle-earth?
They can do stuff better than other people can. But even still, my initial reaction was to laugh because it just felt ridiculous.
If they can become exhausted from the cold,
yeah,
and if later on in this episode we see Elrond become completely physically exhausted.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
We know that that's a thing that happens to elves. So how long can you really...
She's a super elf.
And also, like, this is purely, like, survival nerd stuff. But, like, when she stops to rest, she's treading water. Treading water is not restful at all. If you need to rest, you turn over onto your back. And we never see her do that. When she stops to rest, she's treading, which exhausts you every bit as much, if not more, as actual swimming forward. So that's just, again, not everybody necessarily knows that kind of, because that's like survival scenario type stuff. But still, it's like, well, treading water is a really silly thing to do if you're trying to rest, like, because it's not restful, it's exhausting.
And then this will kind of be something that I'll touch on when we get to the very end of the video, but as I like to call it, you know, so she's swimming, and then we have Deus Ex Shipwreckia.
Just happens to come upon the shipwreck.
Oh, of course! Now, of course, I guess to give credit, there's not, like, Galadriel doesn't go through, like, this lamenting scene of, like, oh, I'm going to perish, what fool I am.
Well, no, because if she went through a lamenting scene, she'd have to have an emotion besides anger, and strong women don't have emotions other than anger. According to Hollywood, you're not strong if you ever have any emotion but anger.
But yeah, that's just kind of how it struck me. It's like, oh, and you said, like, oh, okay, obviously it could have been very worse, but it still felt like, oh, well, there we go. There's another convenient thing. So, anyways, the shipwreck. Because I know that was something for you that you had thoughts about.
I have thoughts with a capital T. Okay, to a point, I get it. These people have been floating on this raft potentially for days. They're very low on rations. They're very low on water. People go crazy in survival situations like that. Your mind goes weird places. It does weird things to you. That's why we see so many weird, awful things when people are, lost for many days or stranded in a raft on the ocean. We see people do very bizarre and in some cases very, very awful things because it does things to your mind. So to a point, it's understandable. So if it had been that in isolation, I think I would have been much more forgiving. But it's every single character almost in this show. Everyone is so angry and hateful and unlikable. And as a storyteller, if you want people to care about your characters and be emotionally invested in your characters, a good rule of thumb is not to make every single person in the show unlikable. Now, I'm not saying every single person in this show. Elrond is very likable. Arondir is very likable. Bronwyn is likable. We'll get to the other characters that there are other characters that I'm like, yeah, they're okay, I like them. Later on in this episode, there will be a character that I'm like, I love this character, but we're not there yet. So just the concept, like, Galadriel is angry and standoffish.
I have a phrase for that.
What?
Galadriel has a serious case of YA angst.
I mean, she does. She does. Oh my gosh, she does.
Like, that's basically what Galadriel's arc has been so far.
Honestly...
You cannot! You do not... You have not seen what I have seen!
Oh, that made me flat out angry. Okay, like, first of all, I may not be an expert in Tolkienian lore, but Elrond has been through some stuff. He has seen some stuff. He has experienced some stuff. So how selfish and self-centered does Galadriel have to be, oh, well, nothing you have been through even compares to what I have been through. My suffering is so much worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's from episode 1, so whatever.
Yes, but but what I'm going to be doing kind of as each episode goes, because I'm trying to be fair and charitable, and just trying to, like, I know people have perceptions about certain things. There's a name for Galadriel that people use derisively to describe the character. I know that that's a feeling that a lot of people have. I'm just trying to, so, like, what I'm bringing this up here is, like, at this point, this is when I feel like, okay, Galadriel's emotions are, like, 99% of YA protagonists that I've read. It's this kind of whole, like, no one understands me,
No one has suffered as I have suffered.
Yeah, like,
no one's pain is as bad as mine.
Yeah, like, your uniqueness overrides everyone else's experience.
Because you're the chosen one.
Yeah, because you're special, or for whatever reason. So, so this, when we're getting to this, when she says things like, you have not seen what I have not seen, it's like, well, you don't know what the heck they've seen.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
And she comes off as being, and yeah, we're used to the whole, humans don't trust elves, they don't like elves, whatever, and that's supposed to be bad. Like, these bad feelings that humans have towards elf kind in general, that's bad, because humans are just ignorant. But Galadriel very much shows that same kind of disdain towards humans when she makes remarks, I think it's later in the episode, but she tells, what's-his-face, Halbrand, she tells him, it would take longer than your lifetime to list everyone they've taken from me. Like,
yeah.
So you
that's
short-lived human, as though it's a personal shortcoming that he has a short lifespan.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's another thing, too, like, with the YA angst. Over-dramatic.
Very much, yes.
Like,
yes.
Yes, there are people who are that way in real life. Yes, but if you're trying to make a protagonist, and especially if you want to have not even a likable protagonist, but if you want to have a protagonist that the viewer is going to empathize with, we're running out of time, I think. You don't, if there has to be a reason for their over-dramaticness. Mm-hmm. And for them, it's just part of, like, oh, how she suffered. So,
yeah.
Anyways,
well,
sorry.
and if you want your readers to empathize with I hear someone waking up from nap. Mm-hmm. If you want your readers or viewers to empathize with the character has to empathize with other people.
Yeah.
Good morning.
How are we going to manage this?
I don't know. Hey.
Well, maybe if I can read your writing. Why on earth is Galadriel...
Don't read it out loud!
Sorry.
Hey.
Okay.
Do you want your snack? I'll get her set up with her after nap snack, okay. And then maybe...
You can even use my phone to do
cool.
videos for the video that she likes to see after nap time. Well, just to make sure that we don't have dead time going on here, I will talk about, I guess we would go back to Khazad-dûm, which you have your character.
Yeah.
So
my character?
You go ahead.
Yes, so, as I mentioned, Elrond is okay, he's likable, Arondir is likable, Bronwyn is likable. I'm not thinking of too many other characters that are, so far. And then we have Disa. And Disa is just a jewel of a human being. Well, I guess she's not a human being. She's dwarf.
Don't be.
Sorry.
Whatever.
Sorry. Feel that was probably culturally insensitive to call a dwarf a human being, but whatever. I love Disa. And first of all, part of it is probably because, her love language is like welcoming people into her home and feeding them excessively. I don't relate to that at all on a personal level. Yes. So, yeah. So it's no wonder that I would connect very deeply with a character that's like, I am now aware of your existence, therefore it is my eternal responsibility to feed you.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I am that person, so Disa walks onto the screen and I'm like, I get you. So, she is the first truly delightful character, in my opinion, in the show so far, and I hope we get a lot more scenes of her. I don't know from what I've heard if we will, but I really hope we do, because she's wonderful and I love her. So,
I did like the scenes with Elrond and Durin. I think those were, in their little snippets, I like all of them. And I think that the exchange, when they're on that elevator, I did like the exchange between Elrond and Durin. Because to that point, and again, this was me at this point, because, we're already an hour and a half into the series. It's just kind of like, okay, so is it just going to be some sort of lame-o reason that, Durin's upset at Elrond? But there was actually legitimate...
Well, and I liked
and they framed it in such a way.
I liked the way he phrased it. Yeah, it's a blink of an eye for an elf, but this has been a very significant chunk of my life that
and
you
dwarves still have
missed.
long lives too.
Like, they do,
live for
yeah,
hundreds of years.
but not like elves do.
Yeah.
But
I thought all that was really done. I think all the dwarven scenes were done fairly well.
Yeah, I thought they were. I like the way Disa doesn't take any of Durin's garbage. Like, he's not getting away with anything.
And like the dwarven ware, I don't know what you would call it, but like the utensils and like, did you really like? Yeah, the
house
shop
was
department did a great job with that.
Yes,
I really liked that.
I liked it a lot. I liked that a lot.
The next thing I have is Bronwyn's fight.
Okay, I have one thing before that.
Okay.
When the thing, what did they call it? Like the
sea
worm?
Monster.
Worm, yeah.
Which I wonder why they call it the worm, but
I mean, worm is an old word for dragon.
Oh, I guess. I was thinking
like
W-O-R-M. Like, why do they call it a worm?
It's W-Y-R-M, as in the Old English word
for
dragon.
They are both valid words, okay? See, this is the off-the-cuff stuff that you wouldn't have gotten if
when you say
talked
worm,
about it.
like W-O-R-M, it's like sandworms from Dune or something. Like, it's not the same
There's
thing.
a crossover.
No. So after the worm thing, like, attacks the raft with the survivors on it, and conveniently the only other person left alive is the young, attractive man, who's still, like, kind of a jerk, but he's sexy, so, again, YA. Well, he's sexy, so it doesn't matter that he's a jerk and abusive, like, because he's hot and he has muscles.
Well, I mean, she's kind of been jerk and abusive. So they're a match made in heaven for
They deserve each other. Yeah. I do have a friend who is shipping them, so we'll see what comes of that. But the thing that just really got me about that scene is Galadriel is, like, angrily threading this rope.
Oh, you mean when it's just the two of them?
When it's just the two of them, Galadriel and Halbrand. When she's angrily threading this rope through the other rope on the piece of wood that's leaning on the edge of the raft, and she's randomly, like, pulling on it. Why? Like, it's a piece of wood on the edge of your raft. Like, there's no sail attached to it. It doesn't appear to be any kind of, like,
she was getting it ready for Wilson.
Or
you remember how Wilson had that little perch?
There's no Wilson in this, though. So,
it wouldn't have hurt anything.
And then every time she needs to, like, show some anger in the conversation, she pulls on the rope. Like,
you mean extra anger?
Well, I mean, more than her normal, just even seethe. Like,
even seethe.
There's
the
literally
alternate
no...
title for the show. Even seethens.
Like, there's literally no purpose for her standing there pulling on this rope, and it annoys me. So,
okay.
yeah.
Don't insert.
Yeah, so my next note is about Bronwyn, too. So, carry on.
So, well, actually, you know what? You go ahead and give me your opinion on Bronwyn.
Mine is really simple. Bronwyn is clearly not a trained fighter. She's not this, devastating warrior like Galadriel is supposed to be. But she is super, super gutsy when... I mean, she's a gutsy character anyway. We get that impression throughout episode 1 and 2.
Things that are done well.
Exactly.
It can be done in the show.
It can be done.
They show us that it can be done.
But then when her kid is in danger, Mama Bear mode is activated, and she kills this orc single-handedly, even though she is clearly
she kind of had a little bit of help from her son. But
a little bit.
It was mostly her.
But she kills this orc. She's not an expert warrior. She's not the greatest swordswoman anyone alive has ever seen, like Galadriel is supposed to be. She just does what needs to be done. She puts her emotions aside and goes into, you will not hurt my kid. And I thought the fight scene of Bronwyn fighting the orc, I thought that was way better than the stupid scene of Galadriel fighting the snow troll.
I mean,
clearly Galadriel's scene was supposed to be way more impressive because she does this fancy flourish thing.
Man, you won't get over that, will you?
I will not. I will go to my grave not being over this. Bronwyn didn't do any of the fancy flourishing stuff, but she got the job done, and she used what she had at her disposal. She threw the bottle of whatever, like, potion or powder or whatever it was at it. I don't know if that was supposed to be, like, a sleeping powder or if it was just a blunt object she had in reach and could throw. But then she ended up grabbing, like, some kind of sword halberd or pike or something. Yeah. It was on a long handle, so I'm not sure if it was, like, a halberd or what. But she used what she had on hand, and she didn't abandon her kid. Her kid was like, go get help while I'm hiding. She didn't. She stayed there, and
that's
she
another
fought
thing.
the
I
thing
did kind of like
kid.
that tie-in from the first episode when the son's talking about, the mice were keeping me up all night. And then you realize, and then of course, now that seems a little bit weird, where he just goes ballistic on the floor.
Yeah, that was like...
It's a little bit weird, but I do like the tie-in of it wasn't actually mice.
I get it. Like, when there's a mouse in the wall or in the floor or whatever, like, it's annoying. But
the
if
obvious
you go
reason why
that
we
berserk over it, like, I feel like there's some underlying emotional issues there.
I know, but the reason why we had that though, so we can have the scary monster.
Well, yeah, obviously, but like, there's a way. Like, he could have calmly, rationally pried up a
mouse,
floorboard.
I declare, why dost thou make such a racket?
You
it's
don't
only coming!
You don't have to be ridiculous, but he could have, like,
I
wonder if there's a mouse nest under there. Maybe if I get that out and burn it or something, the mice will go away and stop making noise. You don't have to go into this violent and destructive fit of rage.
Well, maybe they're foreshadowing something.
Maybe, but...
Because he has the murder sword.
Yes, and maybe that's what they're trying to indicate, that it's, like, working on him. But it didn't come across that way to me. Like, the ring works on people or whatever.
I wasn't even saying that, but, like, he's going to be more, like, they're setting him up as a bad guy thing. I'm just saying maybe... We'll see. Like, I don't think it's likely.
His
personally,
level of rage seemed very out of balance with what the scene merited. And if we just take it at face value, like, this kid has some serious emotional issues. So, yeah, that was... But I loved the job Bronwyn did fighting and killing the orc.
Okay. Really just kind of echoing yours. One thing I will say, in comparison to Galadriel, because those have been the only 2 fight scenes that we've had so far.
Yeah, I guess they have.
And so why is one just kind of like, okay, whatever, and then one is like, okay, I'm actually invested in this scene. One is now again, I realize with Galadriel's fight, I do think a part of it is just like, well, A, look how awesome she is, and then also B, look how awesome elves are. I'm trying to give it a little more credit than just, oh, well, we just have to show Galadriel being awesome. There is kind of a tendency, at least within the Hobbit movies. What, baby?
Did you finish your snack?
There's kind of a tendency, at least within the Hobbit movies, of just like, oh, we're just going to show how awesome elves are. And that was one thing I was actually kind of thinking about in comparing the Rings of Power and the Hobbit movie to the Lord of the Rings. Does the Lord of the Rings movie, does Legolas really have like a one-on-one fight scene with anyone? I couldn't recall him ever doing that. I mean,
yes,
one-on-one fighting with
orcs.
orcs.
In the context of a larger ongoing battle scene. So, yeah, there are moments during a massive, large-scale battle where, oh, I'm fighting this one orc right now, or this one Uruk-hai, or whatever.
I guess I should say like face-off scenes. So like with Galadriel and the Ice Troll, or like Legolas and that one orc from the Hobbit movies, or like even I'm trying to think if, well, yeah, or Aragorn and Lurch, is that his name? I can't remember. The one Uruk-hai from Fellowship of the Ring, the one with the.
Well, they all have that.
Well, yeah, but
I don't remember what
the guy with the bow.
I don't remember his
name.
name.
The one Uruk-hai with the bow.
Yeah, him.
I don't think there was any scene like that with Legolas. Now, he was still shown to be awesome.
Now I am actually tempted to bring up some Lord of the Rings trivia. But anyone who's interested enough in Tolkien to watch this already knows what I'm going to talk about, because it was that scene. Everybody knows what happened in that scene when they were filming. So I won't say anything. Carry on.
But like they do still like, especially, and yes, it is a little okay, whatever. But it when Legolas kills the Oliphant. Mm-hmm. But there is levity, like, okay, it is a little bit ridiculous, but there's levity because Gimli goes and says,
that still only counts as one!
But like that whole scene of when Legolas is just absolutely demolishing everyone, that shows off like how graceful and how expert the elves are without feeling ridiculous to the degree that He's just fighting a big battle.
What needs to be done, and he's really good at it. Mm-hmm. He's not showing off and being arrogant about it like Galadriel.
I'm trying to be generous, like with the Hobbit movies. That's why I'm bringing that up. The difference between like even that and the Hobbit movies is like there was such an emphasis on just like, oh, I'm an elf. He's an elf, so therefore everything he does is just so awesome. That's the feeling I get with Galadriel. That's the feeling I got with Legolas in the Hobbit movies. I didn't get like, okay, yes, Legolas is an elf. He is super awesome, but it was understated. Mm-hmm. Where like the whole point of like the Hobbit movies and what we've seen with Galadriel is like she's super awesome. Mm-hmm. So bringing that all back, where I feel like the Ice Troll fight is all about her. I understand that like the point of her is just maybe to show like how awesome she is, but I'm not invested in it at all. Mm-hmm. Because there is a lack of stakes. I think that's one thing. Is that
there are actually stakes with Bronwyn.
We don't. Maybe going in, we think, okay, maybe there'll be something that happens with this fight with the Ice Troll. But like, from the point that they launch her off, they fling her off the sword. It's just beatdown fest. Mm-hmm. So there's no stakes. It's just she's just dominating. Whereas we contrast that with the Bronwyn fight, another thing too, there's already kind of tension. I think they did that scene very well, about, okay, there's this creature, you don't know what's going on. There's stakes, and so there's investment, and also I think the lack of refinement, because Bronwyn's not a fighter, I think that also adds something. It adds to the realism, it adds to the feeling, of just being invested.
She has emotional investment in the fight because she is protecting her child. Mm-hmm. But Galadriel doesn't really have any emotional investment. She's like, I'm super awesome and I'm gonna kill a troll and show up all y'all. Like that, and that's all.
But I'm mainly talking about just like from the viewer perspective, and I think all those little elements that you talked about, and that I talked about with like there's stakes, there's tension, there's a lack of refinement. Not saying that things can't be highly choreographed and there's stakes, but generally, the more stuff is choreographed, the less stakes there are in film. All those things add weight to the scene, which in my opinion makes it more enjoyable. I was invested in that scene. I was invested, in the back of my mind, did I think that anything was going to happen to the characters? Maybe something happened to the son. I didn't think anything was going to happen to Bronwyn, like her dying. Maybe she would get hurt or something like that. So, like, there's still a part of me in my brain of, like, okay, there's not really anything that's going to happen to these characters more than likely. But in the moment, I wasn't really thinking about that.
Well, but there's also the difference in that Bronwyn is a character that we actually care about. If you think about, like, the scene in Khazad-dûm... Or not Khazad...
I'm not saying I don't care about it. I'm just trying to analyze things on a
the scene in Fellowship of the Ring where they're fighting the cave troll in the Mines of Moria. Like, they're... Okay, yes, the humans are trying to protect the hobbits. The dwarf and the elf are trying to protect the hobbits and all of that. But we don't have that same, like, parent protecting child dynamic. But we still have... These are characters that we really like, and we don't want anything bad to happen to them.
Yeah.
And they're fighting for their survival. We care about them, therefore we care about the outcome of the scene. We care about Bronwyn because Bronwyn is likable. She's relatable. Like, she has just a normal job. She's an herbalist. Like, she has a kid, so those of us who are parents can relate to, hey, I'm gonna protect my kid or die trying. Any parent can relate to that. So... there's relatability there, and yes, there are people who, at least at first, appeared to be getting hurt in the fight with the snow troll, even though then later apparently everybody was fine somehow.
They drank a potion off screen. But
we don't know any of these characters. We haven't been given any reason to care about the characters, so it's like, oh, that elf just got smashed by a giant block of ice. Oh dear. Okay. As the Loki meme says, yes, very sad. Anyway... it's like we haven't been given a reason to care, so it doesn't feel like, oh no, that guy got smashed. It's like, oh, that guy got smashed. I wonder who that was anyway. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, but very long-winded way of saying that I enjoyed the Bronwyn fight.
Bronwyn is cool.
Yeah.
Respect to Bronwyn.
I think that whole scene was done very well, even the stuff before the fight, the kind of thriller tension part of it. I think it was all done very well. And yeah, it was vastly superior to Galadriel's fight. What's your next thing?
Galadriel when she falls overboard.
Okay, you go.
When the thing breaks.
You go.
Okay, so the thing breaks.
I really just have one thing.
On I guess some kind of like anchor or something breaks off of the raft during the big storm, and
I guess we never said spoiler warnings.
Spoiler warnings now that we're
for the first episode.
Hour and 40 minutes in.
We'll put it in the description. Do the big spoilers thing.
So, she's tied herself to part of the raft, which is a reasonable thing to do if you're worried about being washed overboard. That's very reasonable. Unfortunately for Galadriel, the piece she has tied herself to ends up breaking off when they're hit by a wave. That's no fault of hers, to be fair. Like, that's just bad luck. But the rope is connected to something heavy, and it is pulling her down.
Now that I think about it, how was it so easy for Halbrand to disconnect his little part of the ship from the rest of it? I don't even remember what he does, but it's just kind of like... Yeah, exactly. Anyways, sorry.
So... Then we see Galadriel being dragged down towards the bottom of the ocean, and she appears to be unconscious, like her eyes are closed.
But the rope is still tied to the ship,
The rope is still, like the other end is anchored,
so she can only go so far.
Stretching out. So
now it could sink the whole thing.
Yeah, but the weight is dragging her down, so she's going to be like suspended in like this in between. And she appears very much to be unconscious. Her eyes are closed. Her arms are like limp, being dragged behind her. And she's just, like, hanging there. So Halbrand, however you pronounce it, dives down to save her, cuts her free. They bob back to the surface.
Well, and they like, cut, too. They don't, they don't actually...
They do actually cut. We don't actually watch him cut her free. We just see them both break the surface, and Galadriel is conscious. And not only is she conscious, she's not coughing, she's not vomiting, like, which are very, very
She's
normal things
they
to
don't do that.
Elves don't vomit. So I don't know, like, did she lose consciousness from lack of oxygen? Because, I mean, considering all the other extreme
Maybe
things
she got
we've
bumped
seen
in the head. I
else,
don't know.
that was kind of what I assumed. But if that happens, like, your body is going to automatically start breathing again. And so you're going to inhale water and you're going to drown. You don't gain consciousness while drowning and unable to breathe. Like, you don't regain. And again, when she breaks the surface, she's not coughing, she's not vomiting, which is what people do when they have inhaled water. Well, in more ways than one. But I'm kidding. I just did that for your benefit. So she's not doing anything we would expect if she had, like, lost consciousness from lack of oxygen or had been hit in the head and was knocked unconscious into the water, in which case her body would start breathing and she would inhale water. Like, she just, I'm on the surface now, thank goodness. Like, she's just
not even
conscious
not like she even got conscious, like, how she came up, she was already conscious. So
yeah,
somewhere like on the way up.
It wasn't like Halbrand dragged her up and then she, like,
even that would be bad.
I mean, that would still be bad and unrealistic. But she's
like bursting out of the water.
The surface herself and is immediately treaded. Like,
it's so bad. That's so bad.
You don't regain consciousness when there's no oxygen coming in. This is not a thing that happens. Physically, medically, this is not a thing that happens.
Well, I'll just leave it at that because that was my one comment too.
Okay,
so.
Yes. My only other comment is just kind of like in summation to this whole, like, these 2 episodes so far.
Mm-hmm.
There are a bunch of storylines going at this point. Like, I think I counted, like, at least 4, because we have the one with Galadriel and Halbrand. Yeah. We have the one with Elrond and whenever he's trying to build this tower for this person. We have
and Arondir.
Bronwyn. Well, but they're even kind of separate storylines at this point because they've
we'll
split.
See.
Technically, they're, like, on the same storyline, but they're kind of in different. So we'll just count them as one storyline. And then
I did like the set design with the tunnels.
Yes, that was cool.
And I didn't mention in the first episode, I liked Arondir's outfit.
I thought the part where, you know, Arondir backs up to catch his breath, he's watching the water because there's bubbles and he knows something's going to come out, so he's ready. And then all the hands come out of the roots and I thought that was a little overdone. That was a little too stereotypical.
And also, why
why
wouldn't they just kill him too?
And, like, he's an elf.
We all know why. He has plot armor, the most impenetrable armor of all.
He has plot armor and pretty eyes. Obviously, he can't die. So, yeah, I thought the whole, like, all these hands just coming out and dragging him back, like, that seemed way too stereotypical. And actually, now I think about how do the physics of that work? Because there's, like, 3 pairs of hands, wasn't there? So there's 3 different. So unless it's a 3-handed So they're all, like, squished together in this tunnel, grabbing him.
Okay, you grab this part, and then.
In which case, they're all moving backward. Like, yeah, it was. And I did think it was a little too stereotypical horror movie. Like, I don't even watch horror movies, and I know that it's because I've seen previews for them, and I know, like, I've seen that in at least 3 or 4 horror movie previews. That
you watched the
that
Geico
very
commercial.
type. Geico commercial
about people making dumb decisions.
You make bad decisions when you. I don't think even they did that though.
Running car.
So that was totally a rabbit trail. But we have so many different storylines going here, which in theory can work very, very well. I have written novels where there's a bunch of different storylines that are waiting, you know, they have to branch off and then they will come back together and converge. But first of all, it's really early in the series to do that. You really need to establish, first of all, you need to establish your characters really well so it's easier to keep track of who's who, who's doing what, and why we should care. But secondly, even when you have established your characters well and then they have all their diverging storylines, there still needs to be a clear main thread. Like, this is the clear primary objective we are working towards. This is the clear problem we are solving or trying to solve. This is the mystery we are trying to unravel. Whatever the case is for your unique story. And yes, okay, in pursuit of that main goal, our paths may diverge and we all go in different directions and follow different threads, but they're ultimately going to converge again on this one main thread. And we as the reader or the viewer need to see that. We need to know what the main thread is.
I think they're building up to that. I think that's where I've heard similar criticism. I think the criticism that you can level at this is it shouldn't be taking 2 episodes. Like, we're 2 episodes in,
right?
And
we should have established it by now.
Like, obviously, what's the through thread? Because spoilers, Sauron's not dead. If you know anything, Lord of the Rings and Hobbit and whatnot.
If you have been anywhere in the Western Hemisphere
in
the last 20 years.
Obviously, that's the thread that they're all leading to somehow. But within these 2 episodes, they haven't established that. Hi, baby.
So, yeah, and normally, you don't have this many branches going. Oh, thank you. Are you all done with your soggy frozen banana? Okay. Here, did you turn off the phone? Okay.
So was there more you wanted to say?
No, basically just like you need to wait until you have your characters and your main storyline a little better established normally before you branch in this many directions at once. Otherwise it's just very like, hey, look, here's Galadriel, and also here's this other person, and also here's this other person, and here's these other people, and we're never going to tell you what they actually have to do with anything, and here's this other thing over here, and like, it's so much all at once. Give us one plot, let us get it cemented in our minds, then you can introduce something secondary. Once we get that cemented, then you introduce something tertiary, I guess. So, you need to build it slowly. They're like, hey, boom, scatter. It's like they dropped a handful of marbles on the table, and we're supposed to be keeping track of where all the different marbles are rolling to, but you haven't clearly explained to us which marbles are important, how the marbles relate to each other, and what the objective of putting these marbles on the table is, where we're trying to get the marbles to go. So, that's basically
Okay. So did you have any other notes, or was that it?
No, that was all.
Okay, so I just have a few little notes, and then we can kind of give our summations. I still feel, through the second episode, that there's no point to the Harfoot arc. Still feel like...
Yeah,
Like, I understand that we're getting somewhere, but like...
And the wheelbarrow rolling down the hill. Like, how unoriginal. Have you no shame? Like... How unoriginal can you intentionally be?
I totally forgot about that. I mean, I loved it. I mean, it's still terrible, but I still got a good laugh out of it.
Have you never watched any movie involving a wheelbarrow or
Have you never watched any old cartoons?
Any comedy involving any wheeled vehicle or object?
So, basically what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm not saying, like, well, what's the point of having these scenes in here? There very easily can be a point of having these scenes in here if it reaches to a point that validates them all. However, with that said, I do not have confidence that they will reach that point. And secondly, even if they do reach that point, it shouldn't be taking 2 episodes. That is just my personal feeling. It's taking way too long to get to that point. We're just kind of being...
You want to watch with Mommy?
Okay, just a little bit.
Mommy will finish up here, and then I will come and watch with you, okay?
It's just taking way too long to get to that point. We're just suspended. We've just been perpetually suspended.
Like, I will keep watching all your Harfoot scenes if you give me some reason and indication that they're going to be relevant and how. Like, give me some little cookie crumbs of, hey, here's how these might become relevant. Okay, yeah, I will keep watching your Harfoot scenes, and I will care about your Harfoot scenes if I have some reason to believe that they're going to matter. But you haven't, 2 episodes in, you haven't given me that yet.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of sitting here like, Yep, another Harfoot scene.
And then just wanted to say overall I've enjoyed the dwarf scenes. I think they were all very well done, although I thought the last one was just a little weird. Obviously, they're alluding to something.
Which one was the last one?
Where, like, he's talking to the king, who's, like, his... I don't know if it's his father or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they allude to, like, some sort of secret, and then there's something in the box, which I think is an Arkenstone. Or at least they want us to think it's an Arkenstone.
I don't think the Arkenstone was found until way later. But
I know,
I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yes, because they've been faithful. I don't really care, but you know what people say. So I guess my last thing is that what episode 2 really drives home for me, and it's evident also in episode 1, is that every story beat is so easily telegraphed and foreseen. You know, when she was talking about, like, with the wheelbarrow, when Mary was talking about, like, with the hands, those are just 2 examples, but it's like, there's no guesswork needed.
Halbrand is going to be the only survivor.
Yeah. There's no guesswork needed in watching this show. Like, there is no suspense.
No.
And so, you know, that kind of just makes it a little, you know, it doesn't make it very entertaining to watch. And I guess that's that. Did you have any final thought? I shouldn't say did you have any. What were your feelings about episode 2?
I was kind of about episode 2 like you were about episode 1. Like, I didn't really feel anything. Like, yay, Bronwyn, she killed that orc.
And you found your favorite character.
And I found yes. So I did feel happiness during all the scenes Disa was in, because I understand Disa on a very spiritual level. Yeah, like, so there were moments when I'm like, yeah, Bronwyn, go girl. And then I'm like, oh, Disa, I love you. But as far as the story, it was...
For me, I enjoyed this episode more, but I still didn't really feel much of anything. So it's like, oh, okay, that was more enjoyable. But yeah. And that's basically all I got. So not really a seismic shift in any ways. Still not seeing the praise and vitriol for the show.
Hope
praise
that they pull all these disparate story threads together in some cohesive way. But we should have been shown a connection at the beginning. Like, you start with a unified storyline, then you branch, then you converge. Like, that's typical good story craft. And they have not done that. They threw us in the middle of all this divergence. And so we don't understand how does all this random guy who, like, seemed to have fallen from the stars, like, what does he have to do with anything? What does, what Arondir is dealing with have to do with what does Elrond have to do with anything at this point? Like, why is this artist building a tower relevant to anybody? Like, so we don't have a solid connecting point at the beginning, so it's very hard to see why all these different storylines matter, and I can't really root for them to all come together and converge because I have no concept of how that's going to happen.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, I guess that's that. This video actually wasn't that much shorter. I mean, maybe about 15, 20 minutes, but still, I wasn't anticipating for it to almost be another hour.
Yeah, no, I thought that this one would be like maybe 30, 40 minutes.
So we will go forward not making assumptions. So we recorded this episode along with episode 1 at the same time. Probably won't be doing that again, but you don't know. The
baby's nap time is only so long.
Yeah, that's really the only time we can do it, because if we did it when she's going to bed, she would hear us, and yeah, that wouldn't work. So anyways, at some point, we will be releasing our review of episode 3. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed what you saw today, and please feel free to comment if you have any feelings about what we said, or you just enjoy the show, you hate the show, you feel nothing about the show, whatever your opinion is, we welcome it. But we just appreciate very much for you taking the time to watch this, and, hopefully, I don't think I can say hopefully you learned something today, but you learned something about us maybe. So, so anyways.
You saw a tiny peek of our toddler.
Yes. So anyways, appreciate you all very much, and remember, what we create matters.
Bye.